Well, listen, everybody seems to be weighing in now on the quarterback rankings. I'm seeing it all over Twitter, all over social media. You got idiots like Chris Sims putting Jalen Hurts, what was he, number 10 on Chris Sims' list. I hate even giving him credit for anything. But what I want to do is I want to look at Jalen Hurts today from a little bit different angle. I don't want to rank him in terms of best quarterback. I want to rank him in terms of biggest bargain in the National Football League. Because when you take a look at Jalen Hurts, and I never thought I would be saying this about a guy who just got $250 million a couple years ago. But when you look at his annual salary and compare him to the other quarterbacks in the NFL, to me, it's not even close that Jalen Hurts has to be up there as the biggest bargain in the entire league. He is the 11th highest paid quarterback in terms of annual value. He makes $51 million a year. I'm just going to give you the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks, Ricky Bo. Dak Prescott, $60 million a year.
Brutal.
You know how many Super Bowl appearances?
Zero.
Jordan Love, $55 million a year. You know how many Super Bowl appearances?
I'm going to go with zero.
Trevor Lawrence, $55 million a year.
That's a zero.
Joe Burrow, very good quarterback. One Super Bowl appearance, but how many victories? Zero. Josh Allen, $55 million a year. Tua Tagovailoa, $53 million a year.
Nothing.
Zero. Jared Goff makes $53 million with the Lions, has not been there with Detroit. He went with the Rams, and he lost. Zero Super Bowl victories. Brock Purdy, $53 million. Went to the Super Bowl, didn't win it. Justin Herbert, $52.5 million, 0-2 in the playoffs, and looked terrible this season. And then Lamar Jackson, $52 million, 0 Super Bowls. So combined, the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in terms of annual value have 3 Super Bowl appearances, 0 Super Bowl victories. In fact, only 3 of those quarterbacks even have winning records in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, in 4 seasons, has already been to 2 Super Bowls. And I say 4 seasons because 4 seasons as a starter.
Yeah.
2 Super Bowls, 1 victory, a Super Bowl MVP. Best bargain in the NFL, Ricky Bo?
I would assume he's close. I can't give him a complete best bargain because you can go down to Jaden Daniels, who's not even making close at $9.4 million. Not even making close, and he brought his team to the playoffs last year. So
he's on his rookie contract.
He's on a rookie contract. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're talking just flat-out bargains. But when you go all the way down the list, I think there's 2 guys that you could maybe bring up, maybe 3, 4, actually. Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes is a pretty damn good bargain. I will give you that.
Mahomes is at $45 million, so I got to put him in there. I believe Jalen Hurts is in the top 5 for sure. I think Baker Mayfield is also one of those guys that is a top 5 guy. So all these guys kind of clogged into the top 5. Jaden Daniels, because he's a rookie, is definitely a bargain for the Commanders right now. But when you look at what Jalen Hurts brings to the table, it's not just, number one, passing of football. It's leadership role within the locker room. It's leadership on the field. It's knowledge of what he's doing on the field, being able to change plays on the field. And I know what the argument's going to be. We all know what the argument's going to be. What about his passing? You know, when he has to pass, he's been pretty damn good.
He has been.
I look at it this way. What is the main reason for a quarterback to lead you, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be in one certain way.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about that, and basically what you're saying is winning is the most important thing.
Winning is the most important thing. Right? And that's all this guy does.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
Still just read my mind right there.
And that is winning.
Keep the main thing the main thing. Now, you know, some people try to make the argument, and there's some credence to it, that winning isn't a quarterback stat necessarily because it's a team sport. And you look at guys like Joe Burrow, who don't really have a strong supporting cast.
Joe Burrow may be the best quarterback around, but they don't have a defense.
Exactly.
So what does that really make them?
Exactly.
He's like Dan Marino.
Because you looked at Joe Burrow's, the record from last season, and that team would have probably been 4-13 without him.
Yes.
Same thing with Josh Allen. But I don't love when people make that argument to knock Jalen Hurts down a peg. Oh, look at his supporting cast. Because you have seen other quarterbacks in the National Football League who haven't had the same level of success that Jalen Hurts has had, and they've had supporting cast. And what quarterbacks do we know have had the amount of success that Jalen's had without other weapons? Like, I don't love that
The only
argument.
other guy is Patrick Mahomes.
And Mahomes has arguably the best tight end we've ever seen in NFL history.
Right.
And arguably the best offensive mind we've ever seen in NFL history with Andy Reid.
With Andy Reid. I understand that, but I could you could do the same thing with Jalen Hurts. I mean, under the circumstances, you have one of the best running backs of all time. Probably would have broken the record if he played the extra game last year. That's number one. You have a great tight end, two great receivers, and the best offensive line in football. But that actually hindered him from throwing the ball as much as he probably wanted to.
Yeah, because you look at his passing yards from last season and leaves a little bit to be desired. He only averaged 194 yards a game, which isn't great, but when you dive deeper into the numbers for the offense as a whole, 32nd in pass attempts. So this was intentional. They did not want to throw the football a lot because they didn't have to. Now, one of the things I think is telling, though, when you look at his net yards per attempt, they were in the top 12 of the NFL.
Right.
So they were efficient when they did decide to throw the football.
By the way, he passed 24.1 times a game. That's it.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
They didn't have to. But you have to understand this. If Saquon Barkley doesn't break off 4 or 5 70-yard plays, how much more is he passing?
And this season, he may have to pass more. I mean,
we don't know that.
It's possible, though, that Saquon, I would say not possible, probable, that you're not going to get 2,000 yards from Saquon.
It's probable because of the past history of the 2,000-yard rushers that they've all gone down pretty much, actually a lot. Most of them have gone down in yardage. I think there's been a couple that came within a couple hundred yards. But other than that, there hasn't been that guy who went 2,000 ever.
Yeah, history would tell us that Saquon's not going to get 2,000 yards again.
Right.
And there's a chance that Saquon has even a worse year than not only getting 2,000. He'd be lucky to maybe even get 1,400. But he said yesterday, Saquon, he feels good. He doesn't feel like he had all those touches. But you just look at the recent history, guys like Christian McCaffrey. Once you get those big years, come out the next year, it's not as good.
I'm going to disagree with you right there. Yes, he had touches last year, but how many big hits were put on Saquon Barkley for the season? I want you to really think about this. And I'm talking about like eye test wise. Can you remember him getting his bell rung more than 2 or 3 times all year?
The crazy thing is the hardest hit he took was the reverse hurdle.
Yes.
That became the image of the season. That was probably the hardest hit he took.
So do you see what I'm saying? A lot of them was just being a sprinter. He gets through the second level, all of a sudden he finds a hole and he becomes a sprinter down the sideline.
Yeah, the yards before contact were up there with one of the best in the NFL.
I just do not think that he took the kind of beating that all the rest of these guys did. I saw Eric Dickerson play. He took a beating every single year. You go through all those guys, and you will think about Eddie George. You think about how many great years he had. He took a beating.
I'm just looking at some of these numbers, though, and this is why I say history would tell us he's not going to have as good of a season. He's the 9th player ever to rush for 2,000 yards in a season. When you look at the first 8 2,000-yard rushers, the next year they averaged 1,079 yards.
Right.
I mean, they're averaging half of what they got the year before. Now, I agree with you. Saquon didn't take a lot of hard hits. You would hope that you could still lean on your running game next year. But if they do need to throw the ball a little bit more, I believe that they can. Because Jalen Hurts has shown when he needs to throw the football, he will be able to do it. Maybe none better than what he did in the Super Bowl 2 times in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 59, Super Bowl 57. He outperformed Patrick Mahomes at the highest level.
What's up, everybody? It's Bill Colarulo from Unfiltered with Ricky Bo and Bill Colarulo. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we post a ton of content. It's not just what you hear on air. We're posting content all day long. We do some things before the show, after the show, even stuff during the show. So subscribe, like, do whatever you got to do. We got all this content coming to you every single day.